Narendra Modi is set for a historic third term. His government will be sworn in this weekend on Saturday evening. But there's a lot to unpack in this election 2024 verdict, including asking how BJP slipped below the majority mark and what shift in politics that might bring. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Our focus today continues to be on decoding the election 2024 results. In a moment from now, we'll be joined by Yashwant Deshmukh and Rahul Verma as we continue to look this time in a more granular way at the data that is now available to us on where the BJP lost, where the opposition gained, and why. We know now that three states basically determined the outcome of this election: Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and West Bengal. A lot has already been said about why the exit polls possibly got these states wrong. But now it's time to look at the data and understand what message are the voters sending to our politicians. Is this, in a way, the end of Hindutva as a political force, or is that too simplistic a reading? With allies determining the fate of the Modi government and Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar emerging as kingmakers, what might that do to the ideological core of the BJP? What does it mean for how parliament will function? What does it mean for how politics will play out in the impending assembly elections? So much to talk about. So let's introduce our two guests, our newsmakers on the program today, welcoming them back. You saw them on the election roundtable. That was before the results. Rahul Verma, welcome to the program. Welcome back, rather, to the program. And Yashwant Deshmukh, always a pleasure to have you with us. Let's start with the big picture. I think on counting day, we spoke, Yashwant, a lot about exit polls, why they went wrong. Is there a national message? Is there not a national message? But the political language has already shifted. When Prime Minister Modi went to meet with workers at the BJP headquarters, he spoke, perhaps for the first time in 10 years, he spoke of an NDA government. He didn't talk about himself in third person. He didn't say Modi ki sarkar. He didn't say BJP ki sarkar. He spoke about an NDA government. When you look at all the data that you must have had time to study, and we'll get into some of it now in the next some minutes, what is the big message that emerges to you, Yashwant?
Well, I think the big message for me personally is that the wave elections always compromise the working of the elected representatives, individually speaking. And this election has highlighted once again, time and again, even though BJP won the landslides of sort on their own in 14 and 19, and that wave in the last, Modi wave in the last 10 years, almost made all of us forget that MPs and MLAs matter. Now, the thing is, BJP has come to this rude realization that Prime Minister's popularity is what has been keeping them alive, number one. And number two, even his popularity has a limitation in terms of getting their non-working MPs re-elected. So, which is the essence of democracy, by the way. People do not vote. It's not a presidential system. People at the end of the day in a parliamentary democracy are voting for MLAs and MPs. So if they have elected Barkha or Rahul or Yashwant as an independent MLA or MP of any party, their expectation is that this person has to work. Just because the Prime Minister is popular and a lot of scheme and Ayodhya and 370 and everything is happening, but that doesn't mean that member of parliament which is elected should be just sleeping for 5 years. Doesn't go to the field, doesn't meet people, doesn't do anything. That doesn't solve the local problem. Local vote for the local representative because they have local issues. And they feel that the person I have voted would be coming and solving that local problem. So I think very rude awakening for the BJP on that ground, that you were not doing proper evaluation of the working of your MPs and MLAs and chief ministers. You were not taking into listening to your karyakartas. You gave tickets to people who were imported, who were completely alien to your own rank and file. And this is what the result comes in, even after the amazing popularity of the Prime Minister.
Let me ask you though, you say the amazing popularity of the prime minister, and I don't disagree that at the moment Modi is what the BJP has, and that has its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages. But let's look at Modi's own victory margin, which has dipped substantively in Varanasi from 4.8 lakhs to 1.5 lakhs. And even in terms of vote share, as the next slide will tell you, there has been a decrease in that as well. Now, the question is this. You say the Modi factor has its limitations, individual MPs have to perform. But what about Modi's own popularity? The fact is, the BJP has got used to Modi carrying elections. But Modi's own popularity has clearly either taken a hit or not worked as elections have got in many parts of India localized, have become about local issues, have become about livelihood, have become about, you know, जिसको कहते हैं ना बिजली सड़क पानी is back. Bijli Sadak Pani is back.
More than the Bijli Sadak Pani, Barkha, it's the sheer disappointment with the arrogance of the elected MPs and MLAs and the local leadership as well. You know, when you say that it has Modi's popularity taken a dent, slightly, I have a slightly disagreement on that for a simple reason. Whatever BJP has won, it is only because of Modi's popularity. The fact is that, you know, जो मिला है वो तो मोदी के कारण मिला है ना. मोदी को इक्वेशन से हटा दो तो बीजेपी 100 सीट पे टिकेगी.
पर पहले जो मोदी जी के नाम में मिलता था वो आज नहीं मिल रहा, ये भी मानना पड़ेगा साइमल्टेनियसली.
जो मिल रहा है वो यूपी को छोड़ दो तो बाकी जगहों पे मोर और लेस मिला ही है बरखा. ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं मिला. नई जगहों पे वो जीते हैं, वो मोदी के कारण ही जीते हैं ना. Like तेलंगाना, आंध्रा तो खैर टीडीपी के कारण जीते, but the new gains in Odisha, or for that matter a continuation of the sweeps in the Hindi heartland, barring Uttar Pradesh. In Rajasthan they still managed to poll 50%. 50% in a parliamentary democracy is a massacre of votes in terms of vote share estimations. So what this entire thing that Modi has lost his mojo, Modi has lost the magic and everything, I feel that is like a bit oversimplification of the fact that BJP got less than the majority. The BJP going less than the majority is a Uttar Pradesh phenomena. If the UP thing would have been delivered, BJP would have got majority on its own.
Okay, you mentioned Rajasthan. We brought up the slide, and you know, this is how the. Can I stay on Rajasthan? Could we stay on Rajasthan?
Yeah.
We talk about Rajasthan.
Yeah.
It is clearly nearly 50%, but it's still a dip from the last time. It's still a dip from the It's still a dip from the last time. Rahul, do you agree with Yashwant on this? Do you believe that the message is that if your MPs don't deliver, if your ticket distribution is flawed, if you bring in outsiders, that is a problem. And that's clearly a problem. I think all three of us agree on that. But, you know, I was saying to Yashwant as I was traveling across India that I was finding very little resonance for religious issues this time among BJP voters. Among BJP voters, मुझे लोग कह रहे थे आप on Ram Mandir, they said Ram Mandir अब हो गया. हमारे लिए, as in a conscious way, it's not an issue. And when Mr. Modi was making particularly strident Hindu-Muslim speeches, his voters were saying, don't do it. It was not helping the BJP. It was more than slightly putting people off. Do you agree with Yashwant that it would be, and we shouldn't make any lazy analysis, as you know, sometimes we all want to impose our own thoughts on data. Do you agree with Yashwant that it's an oversimplification to dismiss brand Modi? Whatever the BJP has today, 240 seats, is because of Modi. Or do you think that while that is true, the Modi brand, I'm not talking about the Modi government, we'll come to that later, the Modi brand has been diminished?
Yes, I think to an extent, Modi brand has taken a hit. And the reason why I'm saying it, for everything else, Prime Minister's own victory margin in Varanasi has come down considerably, right? Which means that there is something else at work, which does not explain the tightening of victory margins in Varanasi. But let me make some points here. I think what I've learned from this election that results, elections in India continue to play corrective mechanism. No majority is permanent, and no mobilization strategy is always going to reap you benefits. It took you to so far PM Modi's charismatic appeal, BJP's famed organizational machinery, the religious axis polarization, the welfare, all of this combined took you so far. Political parties that continue to reinvent themselves with different mobilizational strategies remain successful. And so this message sent like that this election has message for everyone. It has some message for BJP to figure out, like that you haven't been completely routed. We have voted you in some places, given you new areas to govern, but have given you warning signals in your core areas of UP, Haryana, Maharashtra. Yes, it has, this election has given a lease of life to the Congress party and opposition, but it hadn't yet put them in a pedestal where they can think the elections have been overturned. BJP's single largest party, their own seat tally is still larger than the combined opposition together. It also has message to sort of like non-BJP or non-NDA, non-India parties that now politics perhaps is going to be in two poles. And if you're not part of those two poles, like BSP, like Shiromani Akali Dal, like YSRCP, like ADMK, like BRS, you are going to be squeezed in those two sort of like narratives which are competing. It has a message for political analysts or pollsters like Yashwant Bhai and myself, that if no majority is permanent, then no theory about Indian politics is permanent. The way we were thinking that now national elections, like that was certainly my theory, that national elections have national momentum. And so if BJP is going to suffer some losses in core areas, but would be largely able to make by gains in the eastern corridor. The losses in the core areas are big. And so, yes, they have been able to safeguard, say, Rajasthan, no, not Rajasthan, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. But if you draw a map, there are losses in different ways everywhere, right? So I think that's a message that no theory is permanent, and you need to continuously understand in a sort of like a churning society like India, where there are deep inequalities. People are dependent on all kinds of protection, not just economic protections through subsidies and welfare, but social protections that have been offered by the state that shouldn't and cannot be taken for granted. And finally, I think it's a message to sort of like ultimately for all talks of that this election might have been rigged and you might get all those kind of things. Election Commission managed to deliver a verdict which is acceptable to everyone, right? And so Indian voters, in their own way, and perhaps the collective wisdom remind us to remain humble. Today, some might have got things right, and some may have gone things wrong. But basically, we all have to submit to the collective wisdom of Indian voters.
I think that's very well said. And the opposition, while urging Mr. Modi to be humble, should also remember that for themselves. What goes around comes around, whether it's the BJP or the Congress. That is what this election actually reminds us. But Yashwant, Rahul spoke about inequalities, and I think rural distress has spoken. It did not manifest itself as anger when I was traveling, but there was despondency, and I did flag that people seem very quiet. कोई जोश नहीं है, कोई enthusiasm नहीं है, कोई गुस्सा भी नहीं है, लेकिन एक kind of despondency है. Now, if you look at the rural-urban divide, we do have some granularity. We know that the BJP has lost more seats in rural and semi-urban seats than in urban centers, and this was borne out even when I was traveling. When I was in a big city, the Modi factor worked much better. You got feedback from people about India's place in the world or 370. When you went into sort of, villages, people did not talk about these issues. They didn't talk about mandir. They didn't talk about 370. They spoke about हमारे घर के पास वो नहर है, उससे पानी नहीं आता, हमारे को MSP पे ये दाम है, हमारे जो राशन मिल रही है अच्छी बात है, but the quality of ration is not good. मेरा बच्चा डॉक्टर बनना चाहता है, मैं उसको कहाँ भेजूं? So do you believe to that extent, to borrow a cliche, is this a repeat of the India Shining 2004 moment? And I know you don't believe that that election was lost by the BJP because of the India Shining slogan, but I use it metaphorically. Did the BJP leave the last man behind in the issues it chose to focus on? And this is despite the Labharti scheme, the welfareism that was at the heart of many of the BJP's policies. Yashwant.
So, Barkha, what you have mentioned is a pan-India phenomena. It's the rural distress, economic distress, all the points. It is not just that they have happened in the BJP states and now happened in non-BJP states. These are the pan-India phenomena. Why I am still kind of not really saying that this is what it has caused to the BJP is for a simple fact that the areas where this has happened, the swing is not largely to the opposition directly. So, if the margins of the BJP has reduced, it is largely because of the drop in the turnout. Drop in the turnout is largely because जो आपने बोला people were मायूस कि interest नहीं था. क्यों नहीं था? Because for n number of reasons, they were not upset with Modi, but they were not really keen to go out and hyper support, and they are certainly not impressed with the Congress. That okay, हम इतने नाराज हैं कि हम निकल के कांग्रेस को वोट देंगे. This is why all those sweeps which has been replicated across around UP, more or less, it is largely because of that. And I don't see a one common theme right now, Barkha. That's my problem, which I know when Yogenji was, it was his day because, वो उस दिन उनका सही लगा था, ठीक है. But जितना वो उस दिन कह रहे थे, मुझे उसमें कोई थीम नहीं दिख रहा था. अग्निवीर के बारे में इतनी बात हुई, बरका. उत्तराखंड, हिमाचल दोनों स्वीप कर गई कि नहीं बीजेपी? पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश में जहां पे जाट वाला पॉपुलेशन है वहां पे बीजेपी जीती है ना. हम कैसे बोल दे कि नहीं जीती है? हरियाणा में हमने तो बोला कि 5 सीट हार रही है, बट द फैक्ट इज even after so much wrong going in Haryana, they still managed to poll 45% in 5 seats. Even after 10 years of disastrous government in Haryana. So what I'm simply trying to say that I could not figure out Agni as the single thing which has driven home the time. I could not see that rural distress that, okay, farmers are so upset. No, I don't see it. Farmers in all these areas have majority voted in favor of the BJP. So I am only kind of worried that the narrative after this election, why this election mandate has come, is going to be misread. And it is arguably going to be misread more by the opposition than the BJP. And there could be a sense of false this thing that, okay, this has worked for me, that has worked for me, and this government has been failed and Modi is down to dust. I'm sorry. The numbers are not showing that. Take the state of UP away from this entire hubris. Then the bottom line is, people have forgotten, number one, that the representatives matter and they need to bloody work on the ground. That is the number one. Number two, if you will ask me one thing, that I find across the spectrum in that way, that one thing is yours, that that yaar Hindu Musalman kam karo. That is a significant thing across the spectrum. And one more thing, Barkha, which I would like to point out because it is not quantifiable. Now again, somebody might come up and say, कि psychologist तो data की बात करो ना. But मैं data की नहीं, people when they talk to us, they give interview and they talk about a dozen other things, And one thing which is not quantifiable, but people did talk and which I could sense, is that हिंदुस्तान में लोगों को करप्शन बर्दाश्त हो जाता है, झूठ बर्दाश्त हो जाता है, नॉन परफॉर्मेंस बर्दाश्त हो जाता है, बट एरोगेंस बर्दाश्त नहीं होता. Arrogance is one thing where people dump you like anything. And I'm not talking about the Prime Minister. I'm talking about as the structure of the political structure, that across the party lines, the kind of arrogance I see in the structure, that is very alarming, including the much hyped spokesperson of the BJP. Every time you come across a panel and there are kind of faces and with the kind of arrogance that they exhibit, that the kind of language that he use, मैं वैसे भी टीवी नहीं देखता बरका, लेकिन को पैनलिस्ट होने के कारण मजबूरी में देखना पड़ जाता था, तो कई बार मुझे लगता था कि यार ये इनको भेजा है, इस प्रोग्राम को देख के इनके 10 वोट और कम ही हो जाएंगे.
हाँ, बिल्कुल,
So,
बिल्कुल. That
so
that
people do not like
abrasiveness.
arrogance. That people do not
Yeah.
like arrogance. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line.
I think we can agree on that. This is as Rahul said, there's a inbuilt corrective mechanism in how people of India respond, and that's across party lines. They like to remind politicians.
Barkha, I would like your team to show up the Rajasthan graphic, because I wanted to point out something which Rahul can take away from that. See, when you said that BJP is still polled 50%, but the numbers came down from the post, this surgical strike hype. You can check
Rajasthan,
one thing.
Please. Yeah, can we go to Rajasthan and stay there, please? Yeah.
Did the drop of the BJP resulted in the gain for the Congress? No. Look who has increased the vote share. Others. What are these others? Who are these others? The rebels, the independents, which the BJP could not manage. So what I'm trying to say, those who are seeing that, okay, even in the areas, Rajasthan happens to be one BJP versus Congress area where Congress has significantly gained the number of seats. But look at from 35 to 37 approximately, that's not the kind of swing which will give you a 0 to 10 seat swing when the one party is polling 50% votes. So what Rahul commented initially, there are other things at play which are not quantifiable. They are important things to understand. And what you said, BJP is likely to understand that more than the opposition. That's the thing.
Let me bring in Rahul. Let's look at Uttar Pradesh, because it's very important. Rajasthan, Yashwant has made the point, and we can come back to it. But जब अपने ही गढ़ में इस तरह का रिजल्ट आता है, तो उसको किस तरह से हम समझें? बहुत सी थियरीज ऑलरेडी आई हैं. Akhilesh Yadav's PDA, a social engineering experiment that very consciously went beyond Muslim Yadav tickets, focused on non-Yadav OBCs that have typically voted for the BJP in past elections. Candidate selection, the point has been made, infighting between Yogi Adityanath and the central leadership of the BJP. We've heard all kinds of theories. But Varanasi, we've discussed Mr. Modi's own dropping victory margin. Ayodhya, we need to talk about Ayodhya, Faizabad, as a metaphor for what has happened in Uttar Pradesh, where a two-time member of parliament, Lalu Singh, he loses. Again, caste dynamics trump Mandir. There's a whole host of local issues. People are angry. There's been mass demolitions to enable the beautification, as it were, of the city. And Lalu Singh was one of the rabble-rousers of the BJP who said, "Hame 400 seat de do, hum Samvidhan badalna chahte hain." Now, the Samvidhan, which otherwise could have been an esoteric idea, when you couple this with Dalits and how Dalits voted, and remember, Ayodhya has a large Dalit as well as Muslim population. But if you look at reserved seats across UP, and we'll show you that in our next slides, the BJP has performed the least well from 2014 to now of its own tally in the reserved seats of Uttar Pradesh.
Barkha, make 2 points, basically to answer both your metaphors. One that you asked Yashwant Bhai as well on India Shining Movement. I would say, yes, this was BJP's India Shining Movement. Not in terms of where like the victories and losses happen, but India Shining and Ab Ki Baar 400 Par both showed overconfidence and arrogance, which is that we are in a pole position and we are going to win this election. In some ways, both times what happened that like in UP, remember in 2004, BJP's seat tally came down drastically. It won 56, 58 seats in 96, 98. In 99, it became 29 seats. And in 2004, it became 10 seats. And even that time, they had lost Faizabad. And same thing has happened again. UP in some ways basically symbolizes the big, because for BJP, UP matters in their MP tally. So it just showed the kind of perhaps overconfidence / arrogance or whatever you may want to call it. So that in some ways 2004 happened in 2024, which people like Yashwant Bhai and myself were worried about looking at the polling data. And we were perhaps not able to read the anxieties that were building up on the ground. Where I think I agree with him is that no single theory or explanation will suffice what happened in 2024, because whichever explanation you could come with, I can show you in the neighboring state it didn't work, right? And so I think what is happening, and UP is a perfect example of that, that a confluence of factors are coming together, and in some places where BJP opposition was weak, it was able to safeguard itself, like Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. But where opposition also became or was strong, it managed to pounce on BJP. So confluence of factors include the economic distress to an extent. It also includes the arrogance. It also includes some kind of like mismanagement from the BJP internally. It also includes smart ticket distribution strategy by the opposition party. So like it's not one single thing. To basically get a sort of like loss of like this, you need multiple things to work. And that's why I think even in 2014 or 2019, BJP didn't win because of PM Modi or because of Pulwama Balakot. There were other things also working in favor of BJP. What I want to humbly submit here is that let's not read victory and defeats by single frame or single factors. A confluence came together and it has led to this kind of victory and defeat. Like if you look at just UP map, look at 2019, 2022, and 2024. There was signal in the 2022 map of what could happen in 2024. People like me ignored it. The signal was very clear that in 2022, like right from like if you pass the Kanpur belt and move to eastern UP, most of the seats that SP had won or the competition had become very, very close was in the eastern UP belt. And this time, so those some of the shifts that had started happening now. Why did Dalit shift or Kurmi shift? I think yes, caste shift. That's why you get the result you get. But I think the initial churning of those shifts had started happening in 2022. It's not just because like Samvidhan Nara might have sort of like given another clip, but those shifts had started happening in 2022.
Yashwant, I agree with Rahul that there isn't any one size fits all theory either for UP or for India. There are confluence of factors, and we are trying to make sense of them the best we can. But let's talk about the Dalit vote, because it has been a factor and the data bears that out. It's been one of the factors in the confluence of factors. Now, if you look at, can I just go back to the 2014 slide? The BJP won all 17 reserved seats in UP in 2014. By the time you come to 2019, the BJP loses 2 of these seats and the third seat comes from its ally. Can we move to 2019? There it is. So it's still winning with its allies, 15 of 17 reserved seats in Uttar Pradesh. By the time you come to 2024, I think the figure is 8. The BJP takes 8, which is its lowest number of reserved seats in Uttar Pradesh thus far. Now, I'm not saying this is the only factor, but the Dalit vote has been divided. The BJP's attempts to consolidate the Hindu identity, to make sure that caste fragmentation didn't matter, that Dalits got absorbed into the vote base of what was once called by its critics a Brahminical party. That worked for the BJP in the last 2 elections. That, at least in UP, maybe the Madhya Pradesh data will throw up something totally different, but at least in UP, that didn't work. Yashwant.
So obviously, that आरक्षण और संविधान बदल देंगे वाला जो concept था, that backfired. That because people don't realize reservation is not about getting jobs or seats. Please try to understand, Barkha. Reservation is question of identity. It's something which Dalits or the oppressed parts of the society, they wear it with pride. That it is something which constitutionally they have been safeguarded with. It is something which ensures their position in the constitution. So constitution संविधान बदल देंगे is something when the opposition very cleverly matched it with the reservation हटा देंगे. Again, it backfired big time for the BJP. Even though the Prime Minister then tried to flip that thing, by saying कि हम मुसलमान को reservation नहीं होने देंगे. He tried to come up, the opposition play with the communal play over on the top of it. But the thing is that yes, that happened. That they have to understand. During the last assembly election in Bihar, RSS chief said something, and that also went completely against them. So reservation is something which is sacrosanct. Affirmative action is something which is sacrosanct for the bottom of the pyramid, that class. Number one, it is more of a question of their identity rather than getting actual job. So they need to understand that. I think they understood it, but somehow
they tried to do damage control, but it didn't
tried
work.
to do the damage control. It didn't work because by that time damage has been done. And
Absolutely.
opposition was very smart. I think whomsoever political minds were working on that line, they were successful in attaching the Samvidhan and this thing together with the reservation thing. Now,
Rahul, that's a very sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Just very quickly, one thing. In UP, in the case of UP, there are two things at play. Akhilesh pulled up a leaf from BJP's playbook of giving non-Jata Dalits the tickets, and in fact, Ayodhya is a classical example, as you said, because it is a general seat, but Akhilesh Yadav picked up a Dalit candidate to fight on a general seat, because that was the way he could have ensured that even the BSP votes could have shifted to his candidate. Number one. Number two, which is simply arithmetic, Barkha, Mayawati did not contest 40 seats last time. And in those seats, BJP got benefited. BJP's own vote share, NDA vote share from 45 to 55% because Mayawati vote did not go to the Samajwadi Party candidate. That is why SP could win only 5 seats, but Mayawati ended up with 10 seats. This time, when she contested all 80 seats, earlier it was seen as कि मुसलमान कैंडिडेट देगी और सपा को नुकसान करेगी, but what people forgot that it's a double-edged sword because of those 80 seats on each one. जो उसका core vote है, जो हाथी दे के बटन दबाता है, that 5% block which shifted to BJP because Mayawati was not there on the ballot, they went back even to the Mayawati. Forget about the Dalit shifting to SP. Mayawati contesting on those 40 seats ensured that whatever Mayawati was getting, it was pulling back some part of that from the BJP. So that itself had a mathematical implication, not just that some Dalit shifted to Samajwadi Party. That is one thing, but 40 seats was also that impact.
That's very interesting, Rahul. How do you see the Mayawati factor? Even through the campaign, she fielded the maximum number of Muslim candidates in Uttar Pradesh, right? The last time she was in alliance with the Samajwadi Party, she had 10 seats. This time she has 0 seats. There is one theory, and again, I don't know what both of you think about it, that had Mayawati not fielded these candidates, the BJP tally in Uttar Pradesh could have been even lower. Yashwant is saying that Mayawati pulled votes from both sides. In a way, that's what he's kind of suggesting. How do you see the Mayawati factor, and where does this leave Mayawati's politics?
See, I think the first answer would be on the future of Dalit politics. I think after the decline of BSP since 2009 onwards, of course, they were in power between 2007 and 12. But 2009 marks the sort of like, to me, the peak of BSP's aspiration when they contested more than 400 Lok Sabha seats and had hoped that BSP would get enough seats to be able to lobby for the position of Prime Minister or will become kingmaker in Lok Sabha. Since then, BSP has been continuously declining, and it has declined a lot more in many parts of the country, especially Haryana, Rajasthan, where they used to get seats, and UP they have crashed in every successive election. So Dalit politics in North India, as we know through the period of 1990s and early 2000s, that still needs to find a new vehicle, a new leader, and so that churn will continue. And that basically joins to your second question, which is, I think, BJP or any party has to understand when a new group of voters are coming to your side, they are not coming or becoming suddenly basically your ideological core, right? They are looking for a new home, new vehicle to meet their social, economic, political aspirations. You did certain things. You got President Ramnath Kovind. That's one way of basically saying we'll give you representation. BJP started talking much more about Dr. Ambedkar, made memorials and certain other things. But at some day, these core voters are going to say, what is changing for us materially, right? And if things are not changing for us materially, and there is also this tension that you might even take away our socio-economic rights, then we are being useful idiots by being on your side, right? So this shift in Dalit vote from BJP towards SP Congress alliance, in some ways, is a message that no group of vote has to be taken for granted. You have to continuously do things for
Yeah.
them. Third, I think like this, and Yashwant Bhai very rightly said, like any leader contesting all seats is going to complicate the mathematical equation at the constituency level. The problem is we tend to think of leaders and their parties and the caste blocks that are associated with them as a homogeneous block, right? At the end of the day, the voters of a particular community are, of course, looking at the party which has been representing them, but they're also looking if there is someone from my community who's contesting at the constituency level. What is the sort of like performance of the local level incumbent who's contesting, say, on BJP's ticket, right? So just to give you an example, like the Kurmi vote in Eastern UP, I think it had started voting for BJP between 2014 and 2022. There was some shift in 22, but this time there was much more strategic voting. Wherever BJP had a Kurmi candidate, a large number of candidate like voters stayed with them, but otherwise they shifted en masse towards Samajwadi Party. And so, like what the BJP's success in UP or elsewhere lies is micromanagement of constituency level social arithmetic. I think the like hubris, arrogance, or whatever you say, in last couple of years, it became as if we don't need to do that hard work on the ground.
Yeah.
Everything would happen because we have Prime Minister Modi, we have largest political machine, we have done this, we give them ration. You know, like you basically like politics at the end of the day happens through the grunt work on the ground.
Absolutely.
And maybe like in places where you don't have stable social coalition, which is not in the case of, say, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. Rajasthan is much more of a localized phenomena. I see UP as a route for BJP.
Yeah.
And that means that basically things were taken for a little bit more granted than they should have.
Yeah. Again, we don't have all the answers. And as both of you have said, we don't know. Poor management, poor candidates, local factors, strong opposition, diminishing brands. Let's turn our attention to another critical state that has cost the BJP its majority mark, Maharashtra. And, we had BJP supporters on this program yesterday talking about Maharashtra being a wreckage. The BJP set to lose the assembly elections if it doesn't do something very soon. Fadnavis now offering to quit from government. The BJP hoping, no, not this, please. The BJP hoping that Uddhav Thackeray will come back to it. Let's talk about Maharashtra. Yashwant, I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, Maharashtra, it's like something which, in a slow motion, some big structure was collapsing. And we were telling in the last 18 months in 3 back-to-back India Today Mood of the Nation covers, Maharashtra going bad, 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 dumb. And it's like that, every time we said that they are suffering, they did another stupidity to add on. They doubled down on what wrong they were doing in Maharashtra. And it's Maharashtra, as per me, is a very good mandate for the sake of democracy. Let's put it this way. People do not like mandates to be disrespected. People do not like, zero chemistry alliances in action. And most importantly, the cadre do not like whatever wrong has been done to their own leaders. So I think Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar both have underlined it's not the symbols that you can take away. It's not the party that you can take away. The bottom line is if the leader is popular, they will survive even without a party, without a symbol whatsoever. So that is where the bottom line is, And Maharashtra also was a question of not just unreliable alliances and all that, but imports, giving tickets to the imported people lock, stock, and barrel, not being harsh enough on non-performing MPs, all these things. The Maharashtra is anything. Only difference is whatever the problems we counted, for UP, they were already there in Maharashtra. I mean, it's just that we could read it because in Maharashtra they were doing all kind of wrong practices, much on the face of it. So I think Maharashtra reacted in a much more volatile way than UP would have reacted. One thing which I want to add, Rahul, when you said on the saying कि हवा लहर ऊपर से इन लोग ने नीचे वाले सोच रहे थे कि हवा आएगी और हम जीत जाएंगे. Barkha, I had a very interesting comment, and that was, by the way, before the last phase ended, and I was talking to some of my old journalistic people, those who are retired, but they know the ground. So one gentleman told me, and aged one, he said कि इन लोगों को गलत फहमी है कि खंबा भी खड़ा करेंगे तो हम जिता ले जाएंगे. तो आप भूल जाते हैं कि खंबा करेंगे तो हम माला तो पहनाएंगे, लेकिन उस खंबे के ऊपर कुकुर क्या करके जाएंगे ये आप भूल जाते हैं. So that was a very, very Purabiya way of saying
Yes.
what exactly exactly what has happened. When you feel you have this arrogance of हम फर्क नहीं पड़ता, कार्यकर्ता क्या कह रहा है फर्क नहीं पड़ता, वोटर क्या सोच रहा है फर्क नहीं पड़ता, हम खड़ा करेंगे ना, हमने बोला है ना. Taking for granted, that is the last thing a leader or a party or a MP or anybody should do. Indian voters just rebel to that, because when you take them for granted, they read that arrogance in you, that you are taking me for granted. And forget about voters, even between two individuals, even two friends, me, you, Rahul, sitting over here, we are there for each other, but we never like to be taken for granted. Nobody likes to be taken for granted. That's a basic human reaction. And you are taking such a huge mass and your own party workers taken for granted, that was supposed to backfire at some point of time.
Absolutely. And, even the induction of Ajit Pawar, just completely. And I said repeatedly, Rahul, when I was traveling in Maharashtra, that I saw so much sympathy for Uddhav voters from people who had otherwise identified themselves as Modi fans. I am not talking about Congress voters. I am not talking about Sharad Pawar voters. I am talking about those who said, Modi ji अच्छे हैं, लेकिन ये उद्धव के साथ जो किया बहुत बुरा हुआ. Now, how do you read Maharashtra?
Maharashtra was a very, very difficult state. Like throughout, like last 6 months, if you ask pollsters which state is most difficult to predict, I think they would have always pointed out Maharashtra being one of them because of all the changes. And Bengal, it seems, has been very, very difficult for polling in general in last few years. So those two states have always been difficult to call. I think, see, the way I would like now that all cards have gone against BJP in Maharashtra, they were in a way back to the wall. Once this alliance happened, the Shiv Sena, Congress and NCP alliance happened after the 2019 election results. One option was to wait, which is okay, things have gone out of our hand. Next election, we might be able to sort of like bounce back or get a single party majority on our own. But I don't think politicians are in the game of waiting anymore. They had to basically disturb the settled equation. The only way of disturbing the settled equation was to break the parties, which they did with doing the Eknath Shinde Sena. And given the dominance of BJP in our party system, we'll see how it goes from now onward, but at least between 2019 and 2024, that was a card they played. I think if they had stayed just with that card, they would have still a better chance. where I think they faulted was with getting Ajit Pawar in the
Exactly.
camp, because what it did, while you thought that you have managed to break the arithmetic and organizational resources of these two parties, you lost your own narrative on the war of corruption. Right? And then like Ajit Pawar and Praful Patel became the symbol of what got used
Wrong.
at
Exactly.
Washington, right? Had you not done that and played on the card that, like that was just a dynasty running and there were more aspirants within the party who have been working hard. Shinde is the here, like, uh, like worker of Shiv Sena. I think if you had done that, you had not lost the
Absolutely.
political sort of like narrative, and that basically. And then I think, like that Abki Bar 400 Par, like that was not end of the sort of like what you call as arrogant. I don't know what the word for it is, a better word perhaps, which is that you forgot that like certain things should not be done, right? Which is like in Western Maharashtra, calling Sharad Pawar as Bhatakti Atma may not have gone down well, right? And so I
Yeah.
think some part of BJP's communication strategy needed to have been more tempered. But that was all lost with Abki Bar 400 Par. And like once
Yeah.
you are on a different path, then you keep committing
it
those
it it,
kind of.
it, it all flows from the original sin, if it can be
Yes.
called that, of taking the voter for granted and assuming that that you have the trump card, and so you don't need anything else. You don't need all the other old fashioned hard work, booth constituency wise sort of management, candidate distribution. Kisi, like Yashwant said, khamba bhi khada karo to jeetenge. uh, uh, Last state I want to talk about, and then we need to do the national picture and look ahead quickly in the last 10 minutes that we have. West Bengal. West Bengal, the prime minister really believed, and he said it on record, that this is going to be our best performance. The pollsters believed it, the prime minister believed it, the BJP believed it. In the end, it wasn't even as close as last time. What happened, Yashwant?
What happened was, first of all, what when Rahul said the West Bengal is a problem state for polling for everybody, for a simple reason that the all India average of a non-response, if it is 7-8%, in West Bengal it is about 21-22%. It is 3x of the all India average, and that is a very normal thing to happen, Barkha, because it's a global phenomena. Whenever there is a fear of violence, the non-response goes up. So, for obvious reason, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the fear factor in Bengal while people say. But having said that, what has happened in West Bengal is a continuation of last assembly elections bipolarization. The anti-BJP votes completely clinging to Mamata Banerjee. Now, what has happened in the last few months? There were whispers and there were signs of left revival. Now, the idea was that if the left revives, then the surplus vote which went to Mamta, and this is the TMC leaders themselves, with whom I have been talking. I talk to a lot many political leaders as well, apart from this thing, to make a sense of that what happened, and they were kind of expecting that a controlled detonation of top where left will revive 4-5 seats, and that will make a reverse gear of the BJP vote to the left by the time the next assembly elections happen. Now, funny thing is that, forget about pollsters feeling sorry that West Bengal going wrong. Some of the very good TMC, guys' minds, whom I talked to, they were kind of worried because this is not what they were expecting. They were a bit worried because they were expecting that uh, BJP after this will go for a meltdown because left will start pulling out their votes from the BJP, which has
Yeah.
swung to the BJP, and which would have made their future in West Bengal very, very easy. So now look at the vote share over here. BJP is struck around 40%. I mean, this way, that way. So BJP vote share did not go up. they did not go down much. They are just where 40% or 40%. The left did not pick up. So there is no revival of left whatsoever. So the question is, now that 10% residual vote of the left in the, in the Congress, that is there.
Can we just go back to the Bengal slide?
What will happen to them from here onward? Because those voters are not really TMC voters at all. TMC का जितना saturation था वो पिछले assembly election में already पहुंच गया है. So this is where it is, even though Mamta has swept, it's 29, 12, 1 on the screen. Look at the vote share, almost 46%. She has polled like 40, if I'm not wrong, 47 or 48 in the assembly election. In that way. So this looks like a grand moment right now for Mamta Banerjee. But trust me, West Bengal is another dynamic state which has more layers to understand rather than oversimplifying everything.
Okay, Rahul, a quick last take on Bengal, and then we need to look ahead at in our last comments on what a Modi third term might look like.
See, I think West Bengal is going to be a difficult state for BJP for two reasons. First, I think the growth of BJP between 2016 and 2019 was a bit inorganic. It just suddenly grew and perhaps took Mamta by surprise in 2019. And I think after that, where BJP has been struggling to put up a party organization. So this is not to say that BJP is going to collapse or not get 35-38% of vote. I think BJP will stay there. There are demographic factors which will basically put a ceiling mark on what BJP can do. And the problem for BJP, unless it figures out an innovative way, which is like, I don't know, BJP could become the Congress of Bengal as Congress was during the left rule. So it's not like, I think to break that, they need to figure out something very, very smart.
Okay, now let's talk about some national issues. We've spoken about the Modi factor and all of that, but we haven't spoken much about the Congress party. And what can we say safely about what's being called a Congress revival? Now, if we can just play that slide, I can't actually see it. Yeah, if you look at what happened in the direct contests between the BJP and the Congress, then the strike rate of the Congress from 2019 to 2024 has definitely improved in direct context, right? So 92% was the strike rate of the BJP in 2019. And then if we can move on to 2024, that should come up in just a moment, you can see how the Congress's strike rate has actually got better. Yashwant, what do you make of the Congress's capacity to take on the BJP directly? Because पहले कहते थे कि जहाँ BJP Congress की टक्कर होती है वहाँ पे BJP does better.
Yeah.
Can we please
so
go
the
on to
thing
the
is that
2024 slide? Yeah.
So I know that is roughly about 28 or 29%. It is improved from 7 to, if I'm not wrong, that's what I had calculated. I'd seen that one. So, but there is one issue with that calculation, Barkha. That calculation includes the seats which the Congress has won in the third party states as well. This is not apple to apple comparison. Apple to apple comparison.
We don't have the 2024 slide, but we'll add.
Don't worry. I mean, we know we can add that later, but we know the number. It is about 27 or 28%. But 27 or 28% strike rate is including the Congress versus BJP fight directly in the states where Congress is negligible or a junior partner. In other words, if we split that slide into only Congress and the Congress versus BJP kind of thing, which are the 2019 seats, and then compare it, I think it will be more clear, because this growth of 10 seats where in Maharashtra or the similar number in the, say, even in Tamil Nadu where it is Congress versus BJP on many seats, it includes all those seats, and it also includes the UP seats where Congress has remarkably done well. But we all know that the UP mandate is for basically Samajwadi Party, not really the strength of the Congress. So, how much we do read this as a Congress revival against the BJP, that has to be very, very careful. Number one. Number two, the things which have gone behind the screen, the things which are not quantifiable in the states where BJP has lost maximum, say UP and Rajasthan. There is almost a block of about 50 seats, which these two states where where I say कि मेरे जो कैलकुलेशन में 50 सीट का झटका लग गया, वो बेसिकली ये दो स्टेट आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल. In both the states, the infighting, the conspiracy, the X factor, which is not quantifiable, is something which, as a journalist, when I look into it, I don't know what to make of it.
And we have the numbers now. So by some calculation, 29%. Yeah.
So that's precisely what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't done the analysis on the real Congress versus BJP fight, because I think, Rahul, correct me if I am wrong, one seat in Gujarat, the gain in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Beyond that, Madhya Pradesh has gone one-sided.
Karnataka, Haryana.
Haryana, and those seats. So those pointers which have been picked up, they are important for the showing Congress revival in Haryana for sure. They should be celebrating the sole seat of Gujarat, just the way BJP is celebrating the sole seat of Kerala. But in the same way, because it's important, in that way. So what I make of the Congress now is that I hope it's not a false dawn for them. I fear that they will be over-analyzing it. I fear that the people around them will make them over-analyze in a way that they will make it like कि 99 नहीं, आप 299 जीत के आए हो. That kind of thing. So what the post-mortem of this entire election is likely to somehow, and I would be happy if I'm wrong. I don't know, because I haven't read much. If you talk to the pro-Congress sentiment analyst or journalist or columnist, you will get a kind of a feeling कि पूरे हिंदुस्तान में मोदी फेल हो गया, मोदी खत्म हो गया, बीजेपी को लोगों ने जूता मार के भगा दिया, and it's like that. And that kind of feeling when I listen to them, and I'm like, okay, it's good point to say on the TV, but don't say the same thing in my personal conversation. My problem is the same set of people are also saying the same thing in the personal conversation. Am I making sense to you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You're saying that Congress is overstating in a way what has happened. But Rahul, do you agree? Because, now when we look at these figures in comparison on the direct contest, obviously the Congress has done much better. There's no question. It's shown, there are green shoots of revival. But there is a sense that as Yashwant said, that the game has changed. That is what the opposition believes, that the game has changed. And one of the reasons that they may believe this, and this goes to us looking ahead, is that it's not clear in the BJP after Modi who. It's not clear. Because there's been a kind of marginalization. Now, let's see if Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the BJP leader who's won by the highest margin, there's talk that he may become Home Minister, there's talk he may become BJP President. We don't know. But he was marginalized. Vasundhara Raje was marginalized. Nitin Gadkari was marginalized. And that leaves only Yogi Adityanath, who wasn't marginalized, but after this election might find himself significantly weakened. The opposition, therefore, believes that the game has fundamentally changed. Yashwant says that could be a false dawn sort of mistake. What do you think?
So, game continuously changes. Game is never static. Those who were marginalized, that was a context, and then the new context has given some of them hope. Basically, going forward now, what changed only after 5 years, at least in last 10 years, will now change every 3 months or every 6 months. The balance of power within the BJP, within the larger BJP RSS ecosystem, within the NDA, within the India's party system, will continuously shift not just how different parties perform in electoral arena when assembly elections happen, but who jumps which ship and who joins which ship will basically keep shifting those alliances. I think multiple things have gone right for the Congress in last 1.5 year. Rahul Gandhi has emerged as a leader in his own right, and especially
Mm.
after Bharat Jodo Yatra and now this kind of performance, his stature within the Congress party has gone up. There is some kind of organizational responsibility division with Mallikarjun Kharge, and he has shown more autonomy in decision making. Congress, good or bad, has picked up a ideological line. There is much more clarity. How far that will take needs to be seen. But yes, there is a momentum with the Congress party, and as it happens with any election result and mandate, both winners, and in some ways, I would say Congress party has done exceptionally well given its own set of expectation, and BJP has done really badly given their set of expectation. Both need to introspect and figure out what was right for them or wrong for them. If you over read this mandate in your favor, even like if BJP makes this mandate, like, okay, we got a small bump here and there and everything is fine and things would just, I think they would make the mistake, and Congress would certainly make that mistake if they think the tide has completely turned. I think there is a big opening that now it's available to the Congress party. And given that there is no question mark on Rahul Gandhi's leadership, that also is in their advantage. He has age by his side. So yes, and BJP with this term, if they successfully complete, they will have another layer of anti-incumbency against them. Right? There are more states for BJP to lose than Congress, and so yes, Congress sits at an advantageous position, and they can build from here. But if they they've got enough sort of like now fire and ammunition to build from here, but you can always misfire things as well. So that depends
That's
on.
right. And both parties have learned that at different stages in political history. Let's end with what happens next. We've had demands from the allies. Today, the JDU has gone on record. I'll start with you, Rahul. I'll give the closing word to Yashwant. Demanded a review of the Agniveer military recruitment scheme, alongside special status, caste census. Andhra Pradesh has its own list of demands. Chandrababu is on record having supported quotas for Muslim minorities. Of course, the constitution doesn't allow that. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's completely at odds with the BJP's position in this campaign. What do you see happening in this third term with Modi's dependence on allies? In my opinion, Modi will attempt to get more people into the BJP. I don't know how that happens. I don't know where they come from. But otherwise, the vulnerability is constant. Rahul?
Yes, and that will remain constant for a long period of time, because if some of these allies did not join BJP during 2019 and 2024, they are unlikely to join now when they can remain outside and put greater pressure on the government. See, I think it wouldn't be right to just see that allies making more demand. Even within the BJP, there are going to be
Mm.
more pressure points and power centers.
Yeah.
And all of those demands have to be sort of like accommodated in some ways, which is like it's a good sign, right? Like if power gets concentrated in few hands, then the kind of diverse demands that will come from a society or country like India will not get enough representation or voice. So I'm not saying like all demands have to be met and they have to be fulfilled, but in some ways this diversity of ally partner, like one coming from poorer state of Bihar, one coming from southern India like TDP, is basically representative of the diverse need of India's population. And they are going to put and exert pressure on Prime Minister Modi and BJP to fulfill some of those demands. And it remains, and I again want to say this with a caveat, leaders are not constrained by numbers. Yes, it puts them at some discomfort or disadvantage, but they can also use sometimes this as an advantage. Few things that they might have not been able to do because of the constraints within their own social coalition. And so now you could say that this is a like coalition of compulsion and go ahead with some of those ideas if you are broad-minded. Like I've said this, I think, like on the exit poll day as well. Like for me, the biggest concern going forward is, and I hope that whoever governs India in next 5 years, given the kind of challenges we have, India needs a grand federal bargain. India cannot grow without taking all its states together, and so different states have different needs. Terms of the 16th Finance Commission was a bit vague, and in some ways that vagueness of terms of reference now allows you to accommodate different kinds of interests.
I just want to say that I believe that the one thing that goes off the table, I could be wrong, is one nation, one poll. There is no way that regional parties are who are allies of this government, but who also know their own future in the states matters, are going to want to be devoured by the BJP. And so, just looking ahead, there's going to be many interesting pulls and pressures. Yashwant, I'll give you the last word. You know, politics is shifting continuously, not just every 5 years, but every few months, as Rahul reminds us. Closing comment to you.
So I agree with you that one nation, one poll is right now, I mean, not even on the burner, it's somewhere in the shelf in the deep
That's right.
refrigerator.
That's right.
Same goes with the UCC. I mean,
That's
which is
right.
unfortunate part of it, which I believe every progressive in this country, regardless of the political spectrum, should be supporting a progressive idea of it. But it is not going to happen with this kind of majority in hand. It's just not going to happen, number one. But I somehow feel this is not going to complete the term. And that is not because of the pulls and pressures that people are going to pull out and some of the positions are going to change. I have my own theory, and it's not a conspiracy theory. Please understand, I have a theory to go what I feel are the important things which are pretty much on the agenda right now. For example, census has been delayed. I believe right after the monsoon, a bit settles down somewhere in August. I believe that census work will start. And because this is going to be the first ever census in India, which will be completely digitized in that word, the data collection is going to be digitized. Please remember, Barkha, all the previous censuses, the time was spent less on the actual census work and more time was spent on the tabulation.
But how does that link to your very important assertion that this government may not complete its term? You are saying, okay,
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. So I am looking at census starting in August, and some rather than 2 years, census numbers would be in your hands probably by the end of the next year, in 2025, and or maybe a first quarter of the 26. Now, 26 is a very important and critical year because constitutionally we are obliged to have the next delimitation based on the latest census numbers. And that delimitation will not go alone just for the 543 seats, because then the theory of the 33% reservation and increasing the number of the houses will come in.
That's right.
All right. So what I'm saying is that census plus delimitation and the new way of looking at all the boundaries is going to provide a perfect opportunity for a reboot button to the Prime Minister, maybe at the end of the 26 or the early half of 27, to go for a new mandate, because he can very well say, why deny the females 33% reservation that we already have promised? Why let them wait for 3 more years? Let's go for that female reservation right away, right now. So I am it's my theory, not a conspiracy theory, but census, delimitation and 33% women reservation could provide him an opportunity to go for a fresh mandate if he feels uncomfortable in running this government for the next 2 years.
But for that, Chandra Babu and Nitish Kumar or whoever else that the BJP does acquire as an ally have to stay by their side till 2026.
If they, I mean, considering that if they continue, and by the way, if they do not, Barkha, then the fresh election would be even earlier. Because whatever is gonna come, either way, I do not see this going as a 5-year full-term government.
Okay, that is a very interesting note to close on, and it gives us a lot to think about. Always a pleasure. Learn so much from both of you. Yashwant Deshmukh, Rahul Verma. Thank you. Yashwant Deshmukh's tantalizing assertion in the end, what's been whispered coming out into the public public space now. Are we looking at a 5-year term? Will the allies blink first? Will Modi get a reboot? All kinds of possibilities are up in the air. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to our audience for watching. We'll continue special broadcasts on election 2024. Keep watching the Mojo Story. Thank you and take care.
We're at the Indian mainland's southernmost tip in Kanyakumari, the confluence of the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. It is from here that we're beginning our big road trip to the heart and the soul of India, Havas of democracy. That's all about traveling thousands of kilometers to look at the food, the fun, the festivity, the flavors of this election, but also, of course, to tell the stories of you the people, of we the people. At Mojo Story, we have always gone to where the story is. It could be the battlefields of Israel and Gaza, it could be the conflict zone of Manipur, or it could be the sorrow and the tragedy of COVID. We think of all of you as members of our community, of our family. So, I'm urging you and requesting you today to help us tell your stories and our stories. So do become a Mojo member, support and power our storytelling, but also get first access to our big interviews, our special ground reports, our town halls, and also have the opportunity to ask our newsmakers questions directly, as well as get published on our platform. Become a Mojo member, click on the link below, and see you soon.